over 78,000 small rice farmers, mostly youth, with support from the CBN, small loans, equipment, tools, with seedlings, fertilizer, and they're growing rice at very significant commercial volumes. And Lagos State, very smartly, doing a deal with KB to buy up KB rice, process and mill in Lagos and rebranded as Eco Rice. It is better than most rice imported from anywhere. So what's happening with cassava? What's happening with maize in the southeast and south-south? What's happening with palm produce? Why don't we have structures by local leadership in the southeast where young people can find opportunities of economic empowerment? So I come back to that because that's the real issue.
Let's pick up from the stage you contested for governorship before. Yes. So what are they doing to have that engagement and ensure that this doesn't happen? Because we see some arrests made also in a way.
Okay, well, clearly, I'm not holding brief for Governor Rochas Okorochan. He's my friend. But the truth of the matter is that he introduced free education. That's well documented in Imo. He has passion for the youth. I think what we need to do in Imo, just as in many other states, is to move boldly, look for opportunities of single-digit funding, and they're available. CBN, the Bank of Industry, move quickly in the direction of supporting young people towards economic empowerment. In real terms, we have to go beyond talking about them, but actually focusing on what to do. Look, all of this we're talking about and hearing about, and it's unfortunate we have loss of lives, has to do with bread and butter. This business of Biafra, in my view, is just a vehicle of expression of the frustration and the marginalization. And let me say this as well. I think that the youth of Nigeria, also watching how the elite and people in authority plunder the wealth of this country, has not helped. And that is why many of us strongly support what Mr. President is doing, to fight corruption to a standstill. And let me finish this point. Because you cannot build on a cancered, rotten foundation. You've got to clean it up enough. Now, what we don't want to do is to allow a perception that it is one-sided to grow and become cemented. We don't want that.
Isn't it what it is?
Well, I'm not quite sure. Look, I was a former member of PDP. PDP was in government in power, so they had access to government funds. So it's understandable that most of the people involved in all of this were people who had access to power. APC wasn't in power. But let me move the argument to a more specific issue. I think that we need to communicate more with Nigerians. We need to sell them where we're going more effectively. We need them to buy in. We need the youth to buy in. They need to see where we're going with this and where the hope lies and where the light is at the end of the tunnel. Because we need to create hope and confidence. Part of it, in my view, and I hear it all the time, is that Nigerians generally don't have the confidence that we have the right economic team in place to help dig us out of this situation. That's perception.
Do you think that's correct?
Well, the fact of the matter is that you could have a team that is competent, but may not have the freedom they need to execute what programs they think. I'm not sure what it is. But the perception is that we don't have a strong economic team. If you look at some critical areas that directly affect the business of economic empowerment, particularly for the youth, you're talking about housing and power and infrastructure. And when you take those big deal situations and lump them under one ministry, it becomes difficult to focus and get the deliverables.
The other part
because we don't have time.
I just wonder, because if Imo State voted APC, because that's an APC state now, governor is APC, many would have wondered, why then do we still have these agitations there? Is it that, what do you think is missing? Has it not been able to communicate the plans, the programs of the party, of the government to the people, saying, listen, the government, your maybe quote unquote, if there's any sort of hatred to the government is misplaced, this government means, well, just give it time?
I think we need to do more of that. But I think you also need to look at how the politics was played from a viewpoint of the national level and the presidency. Because even in the case of Imo, quite frankly, the debate is out there as to whether Imo is largely a PDP state or a APC
I'm just
state.
going with the,
but the point I'm making
party
is
in
this.
power there
Yes. Look, the federal, state, and local governments must have more effective coordination in terms of programs of economic empowerment for Nigerians and for the youth. And in addition to that, in my view, when you have a situation where our youth feel particularly that nobody is looking after them, nobody is looking after their business, and they have to now become more aggressive, and nobody wants violence, and no government should tolerate that. And I say, one of the things, and it may sound awkward, but this is for real. What we need in Nigeria today, more than anything else, is to open up, as the president is now doing, liberalizing the business of forex and allocation, even if that means a higher level of inflation. I know that Nigerians are suffering under the issue now we face of inflation. I have challenges. How do you pay workers the same salaries? Everybody's cutting back because business is so bad. And yet, what they were able to buy with 10,000 naira 5 months ago, they need 20,000 naira today to do so. They don't have the wage increase. A lot of people are being laid off. And so it's a tough situation. This is all building up. And you can look at it. Mr. President didn't create what's happened to oil pricing. Yes, APC, my party, and this government met on the ground something that was nowhere what they ever expected. But having said that, we need to go beyond that now and focus on building the future so we don't seem to be sounding like making excuses.
And people say we shouldn't kill the future because
yes, we need to push forward.
Some young Nigerians have been killed, and that is why we think it's necessary we close by asking you the best way to handle this. People definitely will protest, of course, but what do you think is the best way?
Well, I think, first of all, that the government has a fundamental responsibility to ensure law and order. But I think we need to engage the youth. The youth need to see that they are important stakeholders. After all, successful countries build on the next generations. What do we do for the next generation to be better than we presently are? And that's not the focus of Nigerians. And I dare say to this government and Mr. President, the time may have come where we tinker with the issue of how we open up a bit more and allow free, direct foreign investment. For example, looking at issues such as amnesty, to say to Nigerians who have stolen money or have illicit funds or monies they can't account for, or enablers, or people who are domiciled in these monies in respective accounts locally and abroad, to say, look, we can do an amnesty program, 18 months to 2 years, or whatever that timeline is, and say, look, bring your monies back to Nigeria.
You think that will help?
Bring your monies back to Nigeria. Government will surcharge you XYZ.
And
you're free, but invest the money in Nigeria. Invest in Nigeria.
Is that supposed to be a substitute for those who, if, for instance, if they stole the money, will that amnesty excuse them?
Look, if you comply within the time period specified, and this has been successful in many other countries, you know that,
right,
and say, look, come back with this money. Because we're under pressure now. It's not even easy to repatriate funds from countries who say we are fantastically corrupt, but they're fantastically people who are domiciled in these stolen funds.
That's going to be a
that's important.
That, of course, I know the jury will be out on that particular point, whether or not they should go with it. But Mr. Jerry Chukwueke, a member of the APC, thank you for talking to us today.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Well, we'll be back. We'll have other perspectives on this matter. Don't go away.